Hi friends, it's Lisa Hetrick, illustrator for Gina K Designs, and I'm so grateful you could join me today. I have a little bit of an inspiration story to share with you before we start the wildflower card tutorial today. This spring, a beautiful meadow of violas popped up in my front yard, and they were absolutely beautiful. Purples and whites, and just they covered the entire front yard. And last year, I had a very, very small patch of these that just kind of showed up in the yard. And last year was the first spring that my father had been gone. He had passed away almost 2 years now this summer. And when that little patch of wildflowers, violas, showed up in the front yard, I was just so happy and blown away because it was just such a gift from him. And this year, it was just an explosion of violas that were popped up in the front yard. And I was just so grateful for the gift from my dad. Just kind of popping up to say hello with beautiful flowers because I love them so much. And it was just such a great moment. It was also when the new Hugs and Wildflowers stamp set was releasing with Gina K Designs. And it was just one of those kismet moments that I just wanted to share with you before I got started in with the tutorial today. So today we're going to create a wildflower card that's inspired by this card that I shared on the blog hop, and I'm going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to play with the different stamps in the Hugs and Wildflower stamp set and create a different color palette and just kind of get loose and free and wild with these wildflower stamps, just like the beautiful violas in my front yard. So here are the inks that I'm going to be using today, the Gina K Designs inks. And I've got Innocent Pink here because I'm not really sure if I'm going to use it, but I did put it on the palette of colors. I have a piece of Gina K Designs white cardstock and a piece of Jelly Bean green cardstock, and an extra piece of Gina K Designs white cardstock as well. I've got some supplies here, some tacky tape and some other tape, and I also have my tidy towel, and I have this Hugs die because I really want to use this brand new Hugs die from Gina K on the card today. I have the Hugs and Wildflower stamp set, and you can see that my stamp set is so loved, and all of these beautiful blooms are going to act as our wildflowers, violas today. And I'm also going to be cutting them out with the new companion dies. So we're going to start by creating the main blooms, and I'm inking up the silhouette stamp that goes with the blooms, and there's 3 different silhouettes that I'm going to be using here, and I'm inking them up with the lovely lavender to do a 2-step stamping process with the line art pieces. So here is the line art version that coordinates with the stamp, and I've used the wisteria color, which I absolutely love this color combination together, and just doing a little 2-step stamping and stamping over top of the silhouette images. And then here is the larger bloom that's a really beautiful bloom that could be a viola, or it could be a forsythia, it could be any kind of wildflower, which I really, really love the look and feel of this. So I'm going to go ahead and take the companion dies and just match them right up with these images and use this purple tape from ThermoWeb and just kind of tack it down a little bit here. I really like this tape. It goes through the die cutter very, very well. And it also, it just doesn't rip the paper when I go to remove the tape. So, and it's totally reusable. So I've got a bunch of it sticking to the side of my die cutter. So here are the blooms. They're all nice and die cut out, and I'm just going to go ahead and set them off to the side as we go ahead and start to create the stems and the foliage and the leaves on this piece of cardstock. Now this is the Gina K Designs white cardstock that I just kind of cut out with a rectangle stitch die just to create the layer, and we're going to be using this large stamp in the Hugs and Wildflower set, this foliage stamp that has the leaves and the greenery, and it also has a bloom. I'm going to be using the jelly bean green and the grass green, but we're going to start working from light to dark. So I'm using jelly bean green first and just inking up very gently onto the stamp. And we're going to be stamping this down 3 times, but I've got a little trick to get a little bit of an angle. And I'm just wiping away the bloom part of that stamp with my finger and just adding a little bit of the innocent pink. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this completely vertically on this card base and just kind of eyeball it because I want to get different varying sizes of these blooms that are going to be coming out. So I'm just kind of going up and down and just kind of eyeballing it about halfway up. So using my tidy towel and just kind of clean off the stamp. And now we want to get those kind of angles with the look and feel. Now you could leave the stamp and the way it is, but if you did, your angles would be kind of hard angles. So I'm taking the stamp off and I'm just kind of moving it over a little bit so I can get a little bit more, moving it to the right on the stamp. So when I do that, it's going to stamp towards the left and just kind of pushing it down to just create that organic shape instead of a really hard angle. By taking the stamp and just moving it on this curve and doing the ink up process that I just did for the one in the center, I get more of an organic not an angle, but I get more of an organic curve here. And I really am digging that. So I just went ahead and just took off a little bit off that bloom, took some wild dandelion, because I love that color, with the innocent pink and the jelly bean green, and just went ahead and stamped this down so that you can see that we have more of an angle, less of an angle, excuse me, and more of an organic curve to kind of create this whole wildflower element coming out of the bottom of the card base. Okay, so we're going to do it again off to the right. So I'm going to pull my stamp up off the block and move it over, and then go ahead and curve it to the left on the block, which means it'll stamp down on the right, and just kind of get that nice organic curve instead of that hard angle. And it's just kind of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, and all you have to do is really just kind of press down on the clear stamp, and it just works beautifully. That's what I love about the clear stamps. They're movable, and you have a lot of room to create different organic shapes. So I'm going ahead and I'm inking up again with the jelly bean green, and then I'm going to wipe off that bloom again and add a little bit of color. And yeah, you could use your tidy towel or whatever you use to kind of wipe things off, but I'm just going to go ahead and just wipe it off with my thumb and add a little bit of wild dandelion, and then go ahead and stamp that from the bottom again. And I'm varying the length here so that we get 3 different kinds of lengths to the bloom, to the foliage, the leaves and the foliage. So I'm digging this, love this look and feel. Now I want to add some detail to the bottom just to kind of get a little bit more sprigs of leaves and greenery coming from the bottom to just kind of finish off this wildflower kind of look. So I'm inking up the fern-like stamp that's in the set, the Hugs and Wildflower set, with some jelly bean green and adding that little bit of detail to the bottom. And I'm going to do a little bit, I'm experimenting here with some stamping on and stamping off to kind of get some variation of color so that we get that illusion of layers. When I'm doing this stamping in layers, you get that illusion of some things coming to the front and some images going to the back. So when you stamp off a color and it goes lighter, you definitely get an illusion of some color being further back and some being further forward. So it's a really neat, easy way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the petal images from the Hugs and Wildflowers stamp set, and I'm going to add some petals to the stems that are already there in the stamp set. So I'm going to use some jelly bean green and I'm going to use some grass green and let it mix right on with the jelly bean green that's in the greenery already, and just kind of create a little triad here. So I have, you can see that the 3 blooms that are there, I have innocent pink and 2 in the wild dandelion, create that grounding look there of 3 in the center. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the leaves in 3s so that we can kind of create that, again, triangular look and feel that creates that pleasing composition. Whenever you're doing something in 3s, it kind of creates a really pleasing composition to the eye. So you can see we've got 3 leaves and then 3 buds, and it's grounded down here in the center with these ferns, and it just kind of has a really nice look and feel to the composition so far. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move on and kind of add some more detail to the blooms by just adding this little tiny bloom to some of the negative spaces that are inside the wildflowers. So I'm pulling out my lemon drop, which is a really beautiful color. It's got a little bit of a green tone, undertone to the lemon. So it's a really great companion color for jelly bean green and wild dandelion because it's got that little bit of green tone. So whenever you take and you stamp lemon drop close to jelly bean green, it kind of heightens the green that's in that color of the lemon drop. So it's a really, really nice complementary color to this palette. And I just kind of love just put those little tiny blooms in 3s and just put them in some of the negative spaces and took that one and put it on the leaf element. So it just kind of helps ground a lot of that imagery that's in the center. So now I'm taking the blooms and I'm turning them upside down. So that's the beautiful thing about the perspective of this bloom. These blooms that I drew for the Hugs and Wildflower set, you can turn them in many different rotations to create different kinds of looks for flowers. So now, because they are kind of facing down, we get this illusion that they're kind of in like a cup shape. And I really, really love that. So I've got the blooms in place and I really want to use this Hugs die. Now in the stamp set, I have the Hugs stamp that you can stamp right into this space, but I'm loving this new Hugs die. So I've got a piece of watercolor pattern that I've created, and stay tuned to next week's video because I'm going to provide this as a download, a free download to you so that you can download and make your own projects with this pattern that I have created, this watercolor piece. And I've got a really fun watercolor tutorial coming next week with this, but I thought I would use it this week as the paper for the Hugs die. So I'm going to go ahead and run this through the die cutter. And look at that! Ah, I just love that die. Now, because the die has a lot of thicks and thins to the hand lettering, I really want to nest that S, that tail of the S, right there where we have that leaf element. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Connect glue to the back of the Hugs die. And the other thing I want to mention about this die, and all of the dies that Gina has that are hand lettered, is that they're squishable, they're movable. So you don't have, you can lay them down just like they are, but you can see that I'm lining up that S, and then I'm just kind of moved that H because I want to create a little bit more roundness in the design so that it kind of just nests right in there and fits really well. So you can move those dies as you're gluing them down. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down the blooms. I'm just putting a little bit of Connect glue on the back and then nesting them on their leaf element with the leaf and the foliage here. And then just going to go ahead and put the whole card base on the A2 Jelly Bean Green cardstock. And just keeping it really super simple here. The colors are popping, the stamping, you know me, the stamps are I'm all about the stamps being the star of the show. So I'm really digging this color combination and the inspiration from the card on the left and creating this really organic, beautiful viola-like flower on the right. So I'm really, really grateful and hope you enjoyed today's card tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me. Please consider sharing the joy by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.